back to Winning Isn't Easy. Let's talk about filing your proof of loss form. Now, the first thing I want to make clear to you is that the policy requirements for a proof of loss are not the same requirements as providing notice. Let's get out your disability policy once again and find the provisions for proof of loss. Got it? Okay. Now, for those of you who don't have your policy, let me give you a general idea of what this provision says. It might say that you have to complete and return the claim form or submit a letter described in the notice of claim section, and that will serve as a proper filing of the proof of loss. The filing has to be received no later than 90 days after the end of the period for which the benefits are claimed. Benefits won't be reduced due to delay and filing of the proof of loss if it's filed as soon as reasonably possible. No definition for that term. In no event, however, we accept a filing of proof of loss for more than a year after it's due. And the only exception is going to be made for you if you were not competent to make the claim. So now we are going to break this down. If you have an actual claim form, take a look at the claim form because it can be hard to understand. And I'll talk about that in greater detail. But I would suggest you make a copy of it and then do a separate sheet of paper, and we'll talk about the things that you should be considering in a second. Now, the filing has to be received no later than 90 days after the end of the period for which benefits are claimed. So let's say you've had an accident on January 1st. Obviously, you've got January, February, March. They want it by April 1st. But if for some reason you can't do it by then that's okay, so long as you file it within a year. So let's say you've been in a coma for 90 days. Obviously, you can't submit it. Let's say you've had surgery. So long as there's a reasonable basis for the delay, most carriers are not going to be denying a claim. Now, if you file it after a year, I will tell you, depending on the company and the state, there might be a fight about that. And again, that goes to notice. And another reason why you want to be consulting with an experienced ERISA disability attorney. Now, I think that you need to also understand that one of the most crucial sections of the long-term disability policy is the section of the policy that describes what you have to submit to the company as proof of claim. I want you to read this provision, read it again, read it a third time. I want you to take a highlighter and highlight the provisions that are applicable so you thoroughly understand it before you file your claim. Because I will tell you, one of the common reasons for claims denial is an incomplete or insufficient proof of claim. Now, my applications that I do for my client is submitted in a shock and awe box, and we submit anything and everything we think needs to be in this claim, including medical records, attending physician statement forms, APS forms with residual functional capacities, any evaluations that we think are needed, a job description, an occupational description, sometimes a vocational report, financial information. In the claim situation of a residual claim, I've got all the income tax returns or financial documents. I've done an analysis of them, and I'm telling them in a spreadsheet exactly to the penny how much they should be paying. So just sending in your proof of claim form in an envelope, in my view, isn't going to cut it. Let's talk about the typical proof of claim provision and what it asks for. Now, this is going to be a laundry list, and I'm going to break this down. What information is needed as proof of your claim? That you're under the regular care of a doctor. Appropriate documentation of your monthly earnings. The date your disability began. The cause of your disability. The extent that your disability impacts your ability to function, including restrictions and limitations that prevent you from performing the material and substantial duties of your occupation. The names and addresses of any hospitals or institutions where you got treatment, including all the doctors. Now, the policy provision is going to go on and say something like, we may request that you send proof of continuing disability, indicating that you are under the regular care of a doctor. The proof provided is to be at your expense, and it has to be sent back to us within 30 days of the request by us. And there's another provision that will give Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe Disability Insurance Company authorization to obtain additional medical information and to provide non-medical information as part of your proof of claim. We will deny your claim or stop sending you payments if the appropriate information isn't received. Now, we're going to talk about the medical proof and this financial proof in greater detail. But let me make some comments about generally the proof. You do need to be under the regular care of a doctor. And what's regular is going to depend on where you're at in terms of your diagnosis and your treatment. You're going to have to pick a date that your disability began. And in many instances, I'm helping my clients pick that right date of disability. If you have a residual claim, I'm going to pick a date that corresponds not only with your medical records, but in the applicable decline in your finances. The cause of your disability is another issue that we have to address. And I don't leave it to chance. I raise every medical condition that could individually result in your disability or collectively in combination result in your disability. And the extent of your disability, including restrictions and limitations, in my view, is key. Your doctor's going to be asked to complete an attending physician statement form. And if you've looked at these forms, you'll see they don't ask the right questions. They don't ask the right questions on purpose because the carrier doesn't want to pay your benefits. So I always make sure that the treating physician has an occupational description of your duties so they understand what the question is. And then I generally will supplement an attending physician statement form with the applicable Social Security Disability Residual Functional Capacity form. And I can assure you that the Social Security RFC form asks all the right and relevant questions that have never been asked or won't be asked in the APS form. So you can see that there's a laundry list of things that need to be submitted. And this is just not necessarily a complete list. Now, you also have to be provide proof of continuing disability. And again, I'll talk about that in more detail. But just because you're disabled today doesn't mean that you're going to be disabled next month. In the world of disability, your claim is a month-by-month claim. And of course, you're going to be asked to sign releases, which can be a minefield, particularly requests for non-medical information, which we want to closely scrutinize and closely control. Wow, that's a lot of information that I've provided to you today. You can see that there can be mistakes that can be made at any stage of this process. If you have any questions, please contact my office, particularly if you're having employment issues or a question about the timing of filing a claim with a progressively disabling condition. I don't want you to make a mistake that could result in a delay or denial of your benefits. Well, we're done for today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please like our page, leave a review, and share it with your family and friends. Remember, this podcast comes out weekly, so stay tuned next week for another great episode of Winning Isn't Easy.
Are you a professional with questions about your individual disability policy? You need the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. This book gives you a comprehensive understanding of your disability policy with tips and to-dos regarding your disability application that will assist you in submitting a winning disability application. This is one you won't want to miss. For the next 24 hours, we are giving away free copies of the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. Order yours today at disabilityclaimsforprofessionals.com.